as well as their scrambled selves. Ruby had been back home for almost a week. She was so angry with Adelaide and Clover that her stomach stayed clenched. Ruby stepped outside the dark coop and away from the heavy smell of bedding and manure. Maybe she should give the eggs to Ethan today. Instead of avoiding him when he pulled up, she could thank him for all he'd been doing, mention the heat, the fishing, and hand him a box of eggs. Adelaide could use them. Maybe Ethan could take the hens. The house phone was ringing. Clover was there, but she probably wouldn't answer. It was hard for her to stand, and then she'd have to lumber across the kitchen because they still didn't have a cordless phone. The caller would have given up. It kept ringing. Ruby put the basket down at the bottom of the steps, stamped up to the porch, and let the screen door slam behind her against its aluminum frame. Clover was slouching in her day chair, staring at the TV. Her mug of tea had turned milky gray beside her. She didn't look up. The phone shook on the wall when it rang, like in a cartoon. "Hello?" Ruby said, glaring at Clover, but Clover just shrugged her right shoulder the way she did, up to the ear, which meant something defeated like, "So what about it?" Or, "I don't want to listen." She had The Price is Right on, loud, her house dress hiked to her knees, bare legs shocking white above inflamed ankles. A pair of pink plastic barrettes held her hair on each side of her face, just above the ears. Ruby recognized them as her own from years ago and felt a slap of remorse. Clover's post-stroke fingers grappling with a child's clasp. The slippers were Ruby's too, pink faux fur, matted and pilled, and too tight on Clover's swollen feet. "Hello?" she said again. The receiver on her shoulder, her hand against the vinyl wallpaper, the once bright oranges sun-bleached into large spectral patches. There was a pause in the line, like whoever it was hadn't expected it to be answered after so many rings and was gathering themselves to speak. A woman said, "Ruby? Is this Ruby?" "Yes," she said. "This is Ruby Chevalier. Who's calling, please?" She used the "don't mess with me" voice she'd rehearsed for journalists or investigators. "Don't say anything," the lawyer had told her. "To anyone." She had spoken as if Ruby couldn't grasp how serious all this was. Ruby didn't even know what it was she might mistakenly say. It wasn't a journalist, though. Ruby could tell by the halting uncertainty, the out-breath like a sigh, the hesitation. When journalists called, they spoke immediately and said things fast like, "Hey, Ruby, how have you been?" Familiar like they knew her, as if she'd be tricked into thinking they'd met before. Natalie said they'd even waited outside the school, asking kids who she was, to point her out if she showed up. Ruby hadn't left the house and she'd come back. The woman on the phone wasn't from around here, the way she said Ruby, the exaggerated vowel sound. She said it again. "Ruby. Ruby, this is Nessa. Nessa Garvey. From Philadelphia? Your aunt." Ruby opened her mouth to speak, but didn't really have anything to say. Ruby's finger traced a faded petal on the wall. It was barely visible. One of the only times Natalie had ever stepped inside their kitchen, she had said to Ruby, "Oh my God, that '70s show. A phone with a cord, the vinyl, orange and brown, the Formica table." The woman, Nessa Garvey, Aunt Nessa, started again. "Please don't hang up," she said. "Please. Hear me for a minute." Ruby wanted to burst into tears. She glanced over at Clover, but Clover wasn't paying attention. She was writing possible prices for showroom merchandise on the back of an envelope with her right hand. She couldn't work the other one anymore. Nessa. A name Ruby remembered on her own. She pushed open the screen door and stretched the cord to sit at the top of the steps. She balanced the phone between her cheek and shoulder to wipe her hand on her shirt because the receiver was slipping, and realized that in her other hand she was still holding the blue egg. "Yeah," she said. "Go ahead." Her voice didn't sound like her own. "I don't know if you remember."